Well, a very, very happy Tuesday, and welcome to the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Today is March 17th of 2026. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone here. I did notice something on our Facebook page where these videos are not necessarily live. Yes, they're live, they're recorded, they're published, and they're uploaded. But for some reason, they lock me out, and I just haven't been able to navigate through it just yet. Um, that's what I wanted to do with my videos is be able to unlock it. Now I could go in after edit audience and publicate it, and that's what I do, but it doesn't give me edit live video. Let's see if that works, right? Maybe? Trying to, I guess, figure this all out with you guys as we settings. No. Um. Huh. Stream viewer. I don't know. Auto general. We'll do that. Stream. Trying to figure out can people distribution. No, we don't need to add any of that. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look at to add it here a little bit later on. But the important thing is we do have our videos uploaded on our Facebook page. Just unfortunately, it is not. We can't see until afterwards. So that's something that we'll maintain and try to fix here by tomorrow. But we are live on our YouTube channel. You can also download us after this. Usually about an hour after the podcast, it gets uploaded to our audio platforms. Where you guys can download it, take us with you on the road wherever you go. So I do appreciate that. I got a lot of conversations here in the sports world to kind of get down and start talking about here today. St. Patrick's Day, not necessarily wearing green, really don't partake in it, in my opinion. But you'll may see any spring training games today. Um, go on the way wearing green. I know the Cincinnati Reds wear green. We'll talk about the Cincinnati Reds and the Cleveland Guardians in today's hour. We'll give you our prediction and a run through of their roster. We'll talk about the recap Monday Night Raw from last night as we continue the road to WrestleMania and so much more. But let's get down to business, you guys. Here's one thing that I wanted to really start off. All right. So I'm going to kick things off here. Today is the 17th. The play-in games are set to be on True TV tonight, beginning at 6:40 p.m. You got UMBC taking on Howard, and that is for the Midwest region. And they're playing in Dayton, Ohio, and that tip-off is at 6:40 p.m. And then in game number 2 tonight at 9:15, we'll see Texas take on NC State for the West region. So the winner goes on to the bracket tournament, and the losers go on back home to get ready for the next season. Well, tomorrow, March 18th, we will see at 6:40 p.m. on True TV. This is where you can find all the games, all the play-in games. Prairie View versus Lehigh in the South region. And then you also see Miami, Ohio taking on SMU for the Midwest region as well. And that's at 9:15. So 4 games, okay? 4 games kicking off this bracket tournament that we are going to see here. And I'll put in my predictions tomorrow here on our show. So we'll talk about our predictions. But I got a bone to pick with NCAA, and I'm not happy, and I know I'm not the only person happy, frustrated about this. I'm not happy with the fact that we have seen Miami, Ohio go undefeated in their season, lose their first game in their conference tournament last weekend, and now they find themselves in the play-in bracket tomorrow night, 9:15 on True TV against SMU. I'm not happy. I'm not a happy camper with how NCAA can even solidify the idea, the notion that an undefeated team, they go 31-0 and they barely make it into this tournament. Matter of fact, they have to win. And I think it says a lot about the NCAA selection. If Miami goes in tomorrow night and they lose and they get eliminated and they go home and they're not part of this original tournament, then I think it says a lot about teams and what does the season actually mean. What does programs mean? Miami doesn't get to really choose what conference they get to be in every year. They don't get to choose who they play and their schedule half the time. And yet they pulled away with a perfect season. They go into the tournament and they fall short. And you may figure that if they had a different turnabout in the tournament and they would have at least won one game of the tournament, it would have been an easy walk-in, but that's not the case. Regardless of what what their conference tournament hold, they were undefeated. So my question is, so I guess in hindsight, for me, if I look at an NCAA basketball team, I'm telling myself, I'm not going for an undefeated streak. I'm going for how we play overall in the conference. Because a lot of times I'll tell you that will make or break whether you're in the Final Four. It's what else do we have to do? We don't have a decent schedule. We are trying to build our program. We don't have we were undefeated in our conference. We couldn't win the championship, but you're telling me not only we have to be undefeated in our conference, we have to win the championship in order to sit ourselves at least plausible in the NCAA tournament? And sure, Miami, Ohio isn't a huge team. It's not a Purdue. It's not a Duke or a North Carolina, and I get that. But come on, you guys. It's a little bit ridiculous to see the effort that these kids play in, they make in, and they go undefeated. The effort that they've had to go 31-0, and yet they find themselves on the outside looking in, trying to win a game because it all comes down to tomorrow. If they don't beat the Mustangs, then they don't win. They don't enter in this bracket. And then on top of that, you guys, if they could pull away with the victory, then they got to go into the tournament, which I believe they have, they'll have the 19th off, so they'll start Friday. But they got to go into the tournament, and then they got to perform well because it's a win or go home situation. So I'm not happy with NCAA's choice. Now, I'm not going to go sit here and protest and argue, well, it needs to be rebuilt or reestablished or whatnot. That's not my take on it. No, but overall, you're really devaluing a team who deserves to be in the NCAA tournament, and just because they didn't win a conference, then they're eliminated. Something sits wrong with me in this situation. But I'm rooting for Miami, Ohio all the way. I'm rooting for Kentucky, and there's a lot of other teams that I'm rooting for too. Like I said, we'll review that tomorrow and talk about that tomorrow on our program on a Wednesday afternoon. But let's move down to WWE. Raw was last night. We are on the road to WrestleMania. And, I think I'm asking myself, what if these storylines are developing, right? We are officially tomorrow, March 18th, March 19th. We are on 1 month away from WrestleMania. 2-night event, Las Vegas, Nevada. Last time that I've heard anything spiel out is that there's about maybe 6 to 7 matches per night. And also, the last time I've heard out, which means I got to go do some homework because I want to know where we stand here today, is that tickets aren't so up and rising as WWE has hoped. Okay, those are the two things that the last time I've heard any results, that's what I've heard. And so I've talked on this program before, and I'm saying, well, what are we doing as the WWE? Because I want to see the WWE succeed. I want to see them to have a sellout stadium. I want to see millions of people tuning in across the world. So what are the WWE doing to better themselves into promoting? Okay, they named Roman Reigns and CM Punk. They went on and they, issued a statement of open challenge that Brock Lesnar was going to have at WrestleMania. So we know Brock Lesnar was going to be partaking at WrestleMania this year. We know that, whoever's the WWE championship at the time is going to be at WrestleMania. And for the last couple weeks, and I apologize about this cough that I have. I still have it. I don't know what to do to get rid of it. It's not really going away. And now it's one of those things where it comes with the migraine. It's the weather, right? It's nice and warm yesterday. Now it's frigid cold. My feet hurt and everything is cold outside. Gosh, get warm again. It's going to be up in the 70s this weekend. Great weekend. Anyways, I'm procrastinating here. But my thing is that we had 5 matches the last couple weeks. And so every episode of Raw, SmackDown, PLE that comes our way, I'm asking the big question, what are we doing to progress forward in matches and storylines heading into WrestleMania 42? So Raw was on Netflix last night. And I want to just kind of break down what took place, and we could get into some conversations heading into that. We kicked things off with Seth Rollins and the Masked Men showing up. Okay? Rollins mentioned that he had the satisfaction of wrapping a chair around Heyman and stomping his fat head on the mat. This is coming from, this article is coming from f4online.com in news. If you want to read the article where I'm getting the detailed information. I did watch bits and pieces last night, but not too much. San Antonio crowd was giving them the F.U. Heyman chant. Rollins said he made a lot of mistakes in his life, but letting Heyman into his inner circle was one of his worst ones. Rollins would make Heyman pay for his betrayal every day until he was gone from the business. Rollins would cut him out of the cancer he was. Okay? Heyman and Rollins, Heyman said Rollins effed him, and so he would do the same to Rollins. Brock Lesnar comes out, he destroys and annihilates the Masked Men, okay? And while the other, Lesnar would suplex them and just shred them from face to face, okay? And then the lights go out, and Oba Femi comes out. comes face to face with Brock Lesnar. And after Febe enters the ring, Rollins slowly walks up beside Lesnar, but then bailed out of the ring. Then when Lesnar turned his attention to Oba, Rollins or Femi hit Brock with a sit-out power bomb. The crowd goes nuts. Michael Cole yells, "Holy shit!" And Femi puts his boot on Brock Lesnar's chest and points to the WrestleMania sign. And now it becomes official that Oba Femi is challenging Brock Lesnar. However, everything else with Rollins, according to this website, was stupid. He doesn't know why he's hiding in the shadows if he isn't fired or suspended. He could just come out to his music like a normal person. Also hid behind all the masked men and bailed. So that was the opening segment of Raw. We get into the opening match where you saw El Grande Americano beat the original El Grande Americano to kick things off. Michael Cole then announces yesterday was 316, and for the tickets to be on sale with 31.6% off today. We're number. Roman Reigns arrives to the arena. He was approached by the Usos. Reigns was happy about how they handled Punk last week. Reigns looked into the camera and told his whole family that they should be offended by what Punk said about his father. He invited the family and cousins to deal with Punk before and after Mania, but on that weekend, Punk belongs to him. Liv Morgan cuts a promo as they were advertised that the Judgment Day was going to be there. Liv Morgan cuts a pre-tape promo on Balor, said that this was her plan since she joined the Judgment Day. Balor was never in charge. He was on borrowed time and just didn't know it. Morgan knew when Balor was lying and scheming, and it was a pleasure watching him fail. Balor couldn't hang with them anymore because he got soft. He was pathetic, wash-up loser. They took a page right out of his playbook when they laid him out. J.D. McDonough was finally free from Balor, holding him back, and Dom was still the AAA Mega Champion and would regain his Intercontinental Champion. Raquel Rodriguez was a future champion, and at WrestleMania, Morgan would be the new Women's World Champion. Morgan didn't hide behind her family's back like Valkyrie claimed they had her back. Without Finn, they are much better than ever. That is what's being said based off of the promo that was cut. The Usos were with Reigns in the locker room afterwards, where Jay was surprised that Reigns didn't drop Punk after he said what he said. Jimmy brought up Punk's comment about Reigns being a part-timer. Reigns said that none of them saw their fathers much when they were kids, but with his kids, it would be different. The whole world could call him a part-timer if they wanted, but he didn't care. As long as his wife and kids knew he was a full-time father, that was his legacy. It was the biggest flex any superstar could ever say. Jimmy was happy to bear this, but Jay still wanted an apology from Punk. Reigns said he didn't need an apology, but thought the Usos did. So he said he would go out there and get him one. And so that was that segment. You had the Women's Intercontinental Championship match where AJ Lee successfully defended the title and beat Bayley. After the match, and this is where after the match, we saw that AJ Lee continued to celebrate during commercials. As they returned from break, Becky Lynch attacked her from behind. Lynch tossed her into the barricades, a boot booted her repeatedly. The highlight of this was the young fan trying to reason with Lynch and Lynch screaming at her in response. The little girl held her hand up as if to tell Lynch to calm down. As officials checked on Lee, Lynch decked her with the IC title belt. McDonough yelled at Pierce backstage in between commercial break, giving away Dom's IC title. Pierce said he didn't give it away. Dom wasn't cleared. As they argued, Penta appeared and the production was suddenly cut backstage. The crowd noise. So this was in between because Dominik Myster did not appear. We'll get into that here in a moment. It was due to an injury. Anyway, so then we saw Penta defend his title against Dragon Lee. Penta ends up defeating Dragon Lee to retaining his title. Theory and Paul approached Heyman backstage afterwards in a segment. Theory said Lesnar would take care of Femi while they would take care of Rollins. Heyman said that that was the worst thing they could do. Rollins' game plan was divide and conquer. It was the art of distraction. Heyman said Rollins hit him with the chair and a curb stomped him, but Rollins received no punishment because the Vision had more power. They needed titles. He said they needed to win the tag team titles from the Usos, and they could position them to get singles titles. They should be on the Usos. Maxine loses to Natty in a one-on-one competition. Randy Orton was interviewed, seemed to be on the phone with somebody, a mystery person, and agreed with them that it was about time for him to do what he needed to do, turn heel. He told the person that he appreciated what they were doing, but told him that he had to get to the interview. Orton told Cole that he changed his mind. He wasn't doing the interview tonight. Orton said that he had a conversation with someone who had a brain and said something profound to him. Something that made him think back in his life, something that made him think about who he was and what he was. All right. We continue to move on as Javon Evans approached Dragon Lee. Evans was excited about Dragon's performance earlier, but was interrupted by Kofi Kingston. Kingston was less friendly than he was last week. He said that there were people on the roster who could lift Evans up, while others were dragging him down. Grayson Waller told Kingston he didn't know what he saw in Evans. Kingston heard people say about Waller, what they said about Waller. And Dan Hansen didn't appreciate being turned down as he was seeking a mentorship. So he put a curse on Grayson Waller. And then we get to the main event where, in a non-title match, Stephanie Valkyrie defeats Raquel Rodriguez. In a single competition, Morgan leaped into the apron, so Io Sky, a lot of outside interference, ran out to the music, chased away Morgan. Sky's help went for naught as Rodriguez tackled her over the announce table. That was all for Sky tonight. Valkyrie drove off the apron and wiped out Rodriguez. Very descriptive. So I appreciate the article that they came down into it. He also has some clear notes as it's official that Oba Femi will be facing Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. Next week on Raw will be in Boston. Brock Lesnar will appear. Jey Usos will defend their titles against Austin Theory and Logan Paul. I think they may be on a title. I may be mistaken. Also, LA Knight approached Jimmy and Jay backstage. Knight asked about them getting cozy with Roman Reigns again. Jimmy said it was family business. Jay told him to mind his business. Knight said no, he could appreciate family business, but could not appreciate the bloodlines coming back. The three of them were on the same page regarding the Vision, but they could not be on the same page if it meant the return of the bloodline. Knight bumped fist with Jimmy, but Jay did not return the favor. All right. So, what do we take away from Raw last night? I asked the question whether or not this was a forward progress movement. And I don't know we saw any of that. I mean, Brock Lesnar already announced that he was going to have a match. Sure. We have to figure out who his match was going to be or who his opponent was going to be. And I get that. And so, to me, I don't necessarily see the forward progress. Isn't that a little bit scary as a wrestling fan, knowing that we have high anticipations of WrestleMania? 5 matches that are being sold off of this. And we're barely getting to that with a month away. I don't know. That's just me. So, the first thing that I've noticed here has to be Oba Femi stepping up to Brock Lesnar. I like it. It wasn't a surprise, and I'm actually, I'm surprised at, I guess what I'm surprised about is that it happened this early, right? Brock Lesnar is expected to make several appearances between now and WrestleMania. I thought maybe the WWE was going to tease him, but no. His first next stop heading into WrestleMania, Oba Femi comes out and lays out Brock Lesnar and indicates that he's going to step up and challenge Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. And that's fine by me. They can go out and cut a few promos. I have not seen Oba Femi cut a promo in the main roster of the WWE, so I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, the match-wise didn't come to a surprise. The timing of when we revealed who was going to be Brock's opponent came to a surprise. Okay? I am glad, though, that they have stuck with the Brock and Oba match. Okay. I know that there were some other speculations out there about Gunther versus Brock or Oba versus Gunther or even Seth versus Brock. And I'm glad that they're not sticking with the Seth versus Brock. We've seen that before. But, I'm glad that we got that out of the way. I'm also, I'm also questioning, because this was in the opening segment, is Seth Rollins cleared? I know some people say that he's not. I don't know if it's a work or, are they still preparing for a Braun Breaker return? Does that timeline match up? We know that, he's been out since the Royal Rumble. He had I believe he had surgery, and, I feel like the initial plan was to see Seth versus Braun. And maybe they're trying to hold off as close to WrestleMania to see if we get that. So, you got Seth Rollins poking the bear. Paul Heyman said something last night that I really could take to heart. Is that the division needs titles. I've said that from the beginning. This is a young group of guys who are looking to make a name for themselves, who have come together from distance, and they need to collect titles. They need to run WWE. They need to run Raw. And if you ask yourself today, if the Vision is in charge of Raw, well, how do you get in charge? First off, it's by winning titles, the tag team titles, IC titles, the WWE Championship, whatever titles, it doesn't matter. The point is that you got to win titles. Because if you have a title on you, you sit at the top of that division, of that title rank. People are coming to you, and now you have that leverage. Okay, so Does Austin Theory, does Logan Paul have titles? No. Braun Breaker was trying to get a title. That was it. So I finally see that the WWE has captured one thing and took it away from that, and Paul Heyman uses it. Now, does that mean that Austin Theory and Logan Paul go win the tag team titles? I think it would be cool. I think it would be cool if they, go out and beat the Usos next week and win those tag team titles. Another rumor that I would point out, and I've heard, is Jimmy versus Jay at WrestleMania. Right now, we still see a bypass between these two people, or these two brothers, especially with their little segment with LA Knight. So that would be a reason why we'd watch Raw next week in Boston. Then we go back to the opening segment. Oba Femi steps up and challenges Brock Lesnar, hits him with the sit-down powerbomb. That was the first time. I don't know when the last time I've seen Brock Lesnar get picked up that easily and get slammed down to the mat. I really don't know. That was something, insane, if you ask me. And I think it's great because, Oba Femi is one of the next top stars, right? He needs this push. He's having a singles run. Like I said, he hasn't done a lot of promo talk. It hasn't used a lot of mic talk on the main roster. We'll get to that. But win or lose, just seeing and watching Oba and Brock at WrestleMania is a sight to see. So I'm glad we got that. Plus, now Oba has said that he has gotten even. I think we could use that. Brock had the first fought, eliminated Oba at the Royal Rumble, and Oba just returned the favor. Not saying that they're even, but now the chip is on the shoulder. The other thing that I took away, which I thought was an interesting thing, I wanted to really hear how the story progressed with Dominik Mysterio, but he was absent from Raw last night due to an injury over the weekend. And I wanted to just have this conversation with you. And I just want to just explain to you where this all came from. And so I got more details from Rick Orsino a couple hours ago on Sports Illustrated. He explained that Dominik was originally scheduled to face Dragon Lee in singles competition. It was announced on commentary, however, that he was not medically cleared, and Lee instead challenged Penta for the men's Intercontinental Championship. Dirty Dom absence came from a successful defend at the AAA Mega title against El Hijo del Vikingo in a no disqualification match over the weekend. During the bout, Vikingo threw a chair at Mysterio and cracked him square in the head. He suffered a pretty good significant gash on the top of his dome as a result. It may not have been all. Dominik was out due to concussions concerns. Brian Alvarez, according to the Wrestling Observer, has reported that Dominik Mysterio was currently in concussion protocol, which is why he was unable to wrestle Monday night in San Antonio. This does not automatically mean that Dom has a concussion. He could just be experiencing symptoms, but either way, it sounds as though the company is taking the proper precautions. In addition to the match with Dragon Lee, Dominik was scheduled to appear in the rest of the Judgment Day in the follow-up segment to their attack last week on Finn Balor. With Dom unavailable for the show, plans reportedly shifted to Liv Morgan continuing the storyline in a backstage promo. All right, so I'm still looking towards a Finn and Dom. If Dom had a concussion and he's going to be out for a couple weeks, first of all, we hope that he has a safe and speedy recovery. But second, I also hope, that he has a few weeks before WrestleMania. So nothing needs to really come quite advanced in this situation. Although, let's just say Dom cannot compete at WrestleMania. I feel like that would be your primary source for this is to have Dom compete. But let's say his concussion takes him out a little further. What do we do? Well, in my opinion, I think we could get away with a Finn and JD McDonough based off of the attack that Finn Balor had last week and how close their friendship would have been, which now is tarnished. You set up an option B on the heel side of this table. So Finn Balor's ready to go and Dom's not. JD McDonough would have been a still good, considerable option. Now, I don't think it would receive the same attention that it would have, but I do believe that it still would be a decent match for a WrestleMania card. Shall, Dominic not be capable of competing? So who knows? But there's a little bit more of Monday Night Raw and the storylines that we could talk about later on this week. And we'll definitely find time this week to have those conversations. But the biggest thing that I still come out and want to claim and notate here, where's the progress? What type of progress have we made? We really just solidified, Brock Lesnar's challenger for WrestleMania. But what else did we do to make matches, to help sell tickets for WrestleMania? There are matches that I can see generated that we've discussed about here, but what else is there right now? Nothing has been confirmed. And like I said, coming up tomorrow, coming up Thursday, we will be officially 1 month away, 30 days away before WrestleMania 32. And yet, I still think we're sitting off 5 matches to sell out these WrestleMania tickets. It bothers me a little bit. No? Does it bother you? Maybe a completely different story. All right, I want to take this time before we move on to our next segment. We're going to alter our next segment. I want to get down into the conversations of the give you updates with the Cincinnati Bearcats baseball team who played yesterday against Utah Valley. They're back at it again tonight or today at 1 o'clock. And I also want to get underway or have the conversations about the Cleveland Guardians and the Cincinnati Reds. Also like to give you an update about the World Baseball Classic, which will go on tonight as Venezuela will take on USA, as well as for the rest of the show. So I may have to push back 2 segments that I had due to time restraints. But before we get to that, I'd like to share, I don't do any really promotional advertisements. This is not a sponsorship, not a promotion, although those options are available. They know how to reach me. If they like to reach me in my DMs of our social media pages, please feel free to do so. But I like to just, WWE 2K26 just came out earlier this month. I haven't officially gotten the game. I haven't really, with the workload that I have put myself under, just haven't had the time or the space or the energy to really just sit down and play these games as much. But I do play the baseball game. So the MLB The Show 26 has officially released to the public today. I will be getting my game as we head into the 2026 season. And if you follow our YouTube page and our gaming content on our YouTube page, you can see we do hold our day-to-day or daily games following the Cincinnati Reds through franchise series and then other exclusive games that we think would be highlighted throughout the course of the year. We're wrapping up spring training with 2025. That should hopefully be played out through this week. And then beginning next week, we get ready for opening day, like the Yankees and Giants, and so on and so forth. So, like I said, not an endorsement, not a sponsorship, but if you guys are gamers out there, you guys check out the new WWE 2K26 game. I've heard it's okay. I've heard some good things about it. I've watched some good content about it. They're going through this um kind of rewriting history with the CM Punk showcase mode where there are matches where he lost and you're capable of kind of rewriting it where he could win. I'm same thing about MLB The Show 26. I play it for one purpose. I may try to start a stream um with the road to the show in that experience. I'm not too sure yet, but if you guys are video game lovers, please check out those games. It would be much appreciated. Also like to give a shout out to riverside.com where we are hosting um and the host and the platform that we are streaming this podcast episode live from. Hi everyone, on our YouTube page. We'll be there on Facebook as uh we've addressed some of the issues that we've had with our Facebook, but also on Riverside, where you could create podcasts, easy for production, where you could create overlays, your brand logos, you could have background, play music, have the text bubbles, all that stuff that you see here. You could share your screen with others, as well as for business meetings. You could have scripts or teleprompters, different type of layouts. You could have multiple guests on your show, whether it's a podcast, live stream, business meeting, whatever. And it also offers other things like a specific personal editing platform on your computer, as well as they pull magic clips out for your shorts, for your short videos. So, if you're looking to get into a podcast, if you're looking for your next business meeting, you're looking for your talk show, whatever the purpose is, interviews, check out riverside.com. Like I said, none of this is a sponsorship. They're not asking me to say this, but we do love to give shout outs to where it feels necessary. All right, before we get in to the Cleveland Browns and to the American League and National League Central game teams for today, I'd like to just recap the Cincinnati Bearcats baseball game that went on yesterday. They took on the Utah Valley at the UCCU ballpark in Orem, Utah. It was game one of a two-game series. Game scored after just 8 innings, where the Bearcats won 11-1. Let's look at the numbers here. We saw Dylan Schuler, who pitched in 2 1/3 of an inning, gave up 2 hits, 1 run, struck out 2 batters, walked 2 as well. The winning pitcher for the Bearcats was Adam Buchwowski, who pitched 1 1/3 of an inning, struck out 3 batters. And who also saved the game is Bradley Coulter, who also pitched a 2/3 of an inning, striking out a batter. Ryan Transiski hit a home run in the 7th inning for the Bearcats, the biggest production they've had. They got out to an early 1-0 lead in the first. Utah Valley came back to score in the third. They went out to score 3 in the fifth, 4 in the seventh, 3 in the eighth, and the game was called after 8 complete innings. The Bearcats in Utah Valley will be back at it again today, 1 p.m. first pitch scheduled for Utah Valley. And you can check that out on ESPN.com. And they will be traveling back home afterwards this week, and we'll get you all that information later on this week. Alrighty. So, it just so happens that the two teams that we're going to talk about today, the Cincinnati Reds, the Cleveland Guardians, they are facing each other in spring training action. It's actually a nighttime game today as the Guardians come in with a 11-12 record, as the Reds come in with a 12-11 record. The Guardians will be sending out Allard to the mound, left-handed pitcher. Will go up against Nick Lodolo in spring training action today. The Cleveland Guardians didn't really make any big impressions this season, at least in my books. According to Lindsay Sports magazine, they are projected to finish off in the AL Central in third place. They were 88 and 74 last year. They have Stephen Volt as their manager this season. They did not resign, but they did decide to keep Jose Ramirez. And so you got guys like Bo Naylor, you got Jose Ramirez, Brian Rocchio, Stephen Kwan. This team is not the same team that I have been expected or anticipated in seeing this year in recent years. I think that they still have, I think, a good solid rotation. Gavin Williams, Tanner Bibby's in there with Logan Allen. The bullpen could definitely use some work. But, there was always one team in the AL Central, and this is where the Guardians dominated the AL Central, even when they weren't that good of a team. But where do they fit now among the teams? Because we saw the Minnesota Twins start selling some of their players, right? We are starting to see where the White Sox just never have been. We're starting to see the rise of the Detroit Tigers. The Kansas City Royals have been there, just like the Guardians, just like the Twins. That's a three-way race, right? Between two teams or three teams that are trying to stay relevant in the league, stay in the mix with the Tigers, with the Twins, with the Royals without giving up too much or allowing time to at least return the favor. So, but I feel like we are on a different shift in the American League Central. Matter of fact, to me, the American League and National League Central divisions kind of get overlooked a lot of times. They never really seem to have the attention that it may deserve or should be given. I mean, they're not these are organizations that aren't really expending a tremendous amount of money. They're going to work within their farm system. They're going to draft, they're going to sign and try to pick up a couple key players to make notice. But they really are not much of a threat, and they haven't really been much of a threat. Now, how do we get, if at all, the Guardians back at the playoffs? It's all about consistency based. I would utilize these two teams as a notion. Well, hey, if you want consistency, just play fundamental baseball. We'll get there again. I still think that the Tigers would walk away with this division based off of what we saw last year, based off of how they improved this year. Matter of fact, I'll include them because we'll talk about them at length tomorrow. But I feel that the Guardians are going to wind up in third place, just behind the Tigers, just behind the Kansas City Royals. Then I got the Minnesota Twins and the Chicago White Sox in this division. Now, I just feel like they're moving south in this direction, and they're not all the way there and pulling off that Band-Aid, right? And I feel like we're going to see more darker days, but before we see better days, and in order to see better days, we are going to have to see these darker days. So I got them finishing in third place. Now, the Cincinnati Reds, I don't want to give you a biased opinion when it comes down to the Cincinnati Reds. We talk about the Reds all the time. But according to Lindsay Sports magazine, they're projecting them to finish fourth. It was the first time in a while that they've actually completed 162 games and they finished above 500, and was something that we talked about towards, something that we've have been through it. right? We've been through the struggles that the Reds have trying to find this right system that we could build a team around off of. And we finally feel like we could have that opportunity. We made it to the wild card, although we were put in our place by the Dodgers, no questions asked. But does the Reds have what it takes to follow up? That is the big question. The big question is does the Reds are capable to battle through injuries, to battle through what they learned last year under Terry Francona. For Terry Francona, who openly admitted that he did not strategize at nearly as good as he wanted to last season, are they going to make those changes? Or are they just the old same team like they always are? And it's kind of hard to believe that they are making changes and that they are in this different direction until we actually see it. A lot of us, we do want to see this team thrive. Now, Lindsay Sports projects them in fourth place. This was prior to the signing of Eugenio Suarez. So, I think just like any other team, they're capable of winning the NL Central. I mean, the Cubs just picked up Alex Bregman, to be honest. I mean, yeah, they are a opposing threat, and I feel like they are comfortable to win that division, so maybe we're the runners-up. We do play better against the Cubs in recent years. Does that continue into 2026? And does that have enough to take on the Cubs in the division? With Hunter Green going out to begin the year, we got Caleb Ferguson right now dealing with injuries as well. My concern is injuries. And we've seen early on here, heading into the season, injuries are going to be something that will probably, if not, cost us. Now, how do we utilize? There was a lot of great questions that we come out. I don't think we have a bad farm system down below. A lot of players are going to get the opportunity to come up. We got Ellie De La Cruz, Suarez at the left side of the field, McLean and either Steer or Sal Stewart on the right side of the field. We got the outfield with Marte, JJ Bleday. This is that opportunity for people who want to make a name for themselves to step up. Because if you're not making a name for yourself, who knows what team is watching for your next, opportunity. I predict that a fighting chance, as long as the Reds are continuing to fight, okay, they get out to a tough start of the season where they host the Red Sox, they host the Pirates, but they get out to a tough start. I think that they could finish in second place. I think they're better than the Pittsburgh Pirates. I think that they're better than Milwaukee, who I know we have a lot of struggles with over here recently. But Milwaukee has gotten rid of some players. So can we capitalize on that? We know that the Cardinals are not tanking, but they're on that rebuild system. The key thing, in my opinion, about how this Reds team is going to succeed at is winning series that you can control, winning games that you should be winning. We have confidence in Brady Singer, Andrew Abbott, and Nick Lodolo. Now we're building confidence with Chase Burns, Rhett Lauder, Brandon Williamson, and when Hunter Green returns, he's an ace. So do you come in and are you capable of having ourselves winning games, winning series? That should be an easy win. Now, coming up early on, true test, home against the Pirates, we should easily win that game. I project that they will finish off in second. It may sound a little biased. I don't have them winning the division, and I have them fighting for a wild card spot this year. That is my predictions for the Cincinnati Reds and the Cleveland Guardians. Tomorrow we'll talk about the Milwaukee Brewers and the Detroit Tigers. Taking a look at yesterday's game, the Reds lost to the Arizona Diamondbacks 11-6. Andrew Abbott only pitched 2 innings. He gave up 8 hits on 8 runs, walked 3 batters, and struck out 3. We did see a home run by Nathaniel Lowe and by Garrett Hampson in yesterday's ballgame, as well as J.J. Bleday and Reese Hines. It was a home run filled day as well. Coming up today, in today's action, the Cincinnati Reds will go on and take on against the Cleveland Guardians. We talked about first pitch, 9:05 p.m. Nick Lodolo will be on the mound. We'll talk about that game tomorrow's episode. Alrighty, yesterday we did see Venezuela pull away with a victory against Italy. Final score was 4-2. And tonight, the matchup is set as Venezuela will take on the United States in the World Baseball Classic Championship Tournament. First pitch at 8 p.m. We will see Nolan McLean on the mound for Team USA as he goes up against Arizona Diamondbacks' Eduardo Rodriguez. This is going to be a fun matchup. What do we need to know? Okay, Team USA punched their ticket on Sunday with the win over Dominican Republic, and as they will face Venezuela, who defeated Italy on Monday. The U.S. and Venezuela will match up in the World Baseball Classic tonight on Fox. For U.S. faces Venezuela, here's what we could know in the final matchup. Okay. You could also listen to this game free on English language audio streaming available for the classic games. Mets right-handed pitcher Nolan McLean will get the start against Venezuela. He's 24 years old, allowed 3 earned runs and 3 innings versus Italy in pool play. He has a 2.06 ERA in 48 innings down the stretch as the Mets last season. Left-handed pitcher Eduardo Rodriguez has announced as the starter in his lone appearance in the tournament against Dominican Republic. In Venezuela, final game of the pool play, Rodriguez allowed 3 runs in 2.3 of an inning, allowing a pair of home runs to Juan Soto and Ketel Marte. Team USA defeated Dominican Republic 2-1 on Sunday and advanced into their 3rd straight Classic final. As tense game, which every run counted, was also home runs. Venezuela beat Italy 4-2 in the semifinals thriller on Monday using the 3-run 7th inning to take the lead and secure the 2nd straight comeback win. Ronald Acuna Jr. tied in the 7th inning with an RBI single before Miguel Garcia gave Venezuela's the lead for the go-ahead RBI single. Starter Keter Monteiro allowed 2 runs in the inning and a third inning. Venezuela bullpen tossed 7 2/3 scoreless innings in its previous game in the quarterfinals against Japan. Because the teams entered the finals with a same 5-1 record, home field advantage was determined by a coin flip, which goes to the United States. The winner will be crowned the 2026 World Baseball Classic champion. Team USA won its only World Baseball Classic championship back in 2017 when they defeated Puerto Rico 8-0 in the title game. Meanwhile, this is Venezuela's first WBC game appearance. These two squads have met 5 times in Classic play, USA holding a 3-2 advantage. Their first meeting came back from 2009 when the U.S. won 15-6 blowout. That's because of homers from Kevin Youkilis, Adam Dunn, and Ryan Braun. Their last meeting was in 2023 quarterfinals where USA won 9-7 thanks to the go-ahead run grand slam from Trey Turner. And so that is tonight's game, and that is all the time we have for you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button on our YouTube page. Follow us, have those notifications on. You can follow us on our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. You guys could also download us and take us on the road, at work, in the gym, wherever you guys get your podcasting at. We'll be on there. We'll be back again tomorrow at noon to talk more sports with you guys. Until then, you guys have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. Happy St. Patrick's Day, and have a good day. Take it. See you tomorrow.